answers? I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connor's USA. Larry Connor's USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
I thought what the president said yesterday, I think it was yesterday, was right. I think he said the Attorney General ought to release whatever she thinks is credible and appropriate to release. That is exactly the right answer, I think. I mean, I think she should do that. I think, and my view is...
She has not released enough, in your opinion.
Well, I think it's... Here's what I think is maybe a little difficult to believe. The idea that DOJ and the FBI, who prosecuted cases relating to this, don't have any idea who Epstein's clients were and that he had no record of it, of the clients. I don't know. I find that kind of hard to believe. I mean, my view is make public everything you can make public. That's what the president said yesterday. I think that would be, if they want my advice, and they don't, but if DOJ were asking for my advice, that's what I would say. Make it all public. Make as much public as you can. Listen, I've been an attorney general of the state of Missouri. I understand, like, these agencies often, they're always pressuring you as the prosecutor. They're always saying, please don't make this public. Please don't make this public. I just think whenever you can, so long as it doesn't interfere with prosecution, I think you ought to make it public. And in this case, I just say, let's make it all public and get it out there.
That is Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, one of those in the MAGA group separating from Trump on the Epstein file issue in the sense that we don't know everything. It's not being released. And Trump calling out his base, basically naming them as losers if they still think the Epstein case is a big issue. Let me set something very, very straight here. We have two issues here. They're getting combined in ways that really aren't correct. First is simply wanting more from the Epstein case and the full details is not tearing down the Trump administration's progress on everything else they've been doing. Trump knows that. He is actually the one weaponizing the Epstein case against his own base. And the second thing is the general public does support, I say MAGA supporters, support Trump on everything he's doing, but not on the Epstein. And when he starts saying, basically, you've been tricked and hoodwinked, you're buying into a hoax, and you're perpetrating it. As Josh Hawley said, we need it all out there. Trump even said the other day, Bondi should release whatever she thinks she can. But then he turns right around and slaps MAGA supporters in the face. I told you days ago that I cannot buy that there is no, quote, Epstein list. It may not be in a file labeled Epstein client list, but we know that he had people going to and from the island for sexual favors with women, children he brought to the island. Now, just saying someone was on the plane that went to the island does not convict them of anything other than being on a plane going to the island. And I don't care whose name it is, but I want all the names out. And we know Trump was on Epstein's plane a couple times. Don't know if it went to the island, or I can't recall if it did or didn't. It doesn't make any difference. We need everything, but we want it in context. And we're not going to be satisfied until it's all out there. Trump said transparency. Promises made, promises kept. You're failing on this promise. And not only that, you were the one fracturing the party. I'm looking at a piece written here by Garrett Seawright with Barrett Media. Here's the title. Do the Epstein files mark a fork in the road for News Talk radio host? It seems as if you could do what your audience wants or do what the president wants, not both, and that feels like catch-22. No, I can do both. I can do both on what the president's doing that is great, but I can also condemn him for not stepping forward and demanding more be made public. Or give me good reasons. And first of all, you got to acknowledge that there are more files and there are names you have. We got a lot to break down today for you. Thank you for joining us. Hour number one, Larry Connors, USA. Yes, we come firing right out of the box every Monday through Friday at 6. And we go run right up to 8 o'clock, and each hour is packed with information. With Larry Connors, USA, you are going to get news, analysis, opinion, and you're going to get education. Specifically in our next hour, when President Reagan granted amnesty to 3 million illegals, and the current call for a similar plan coming from at least 10 Republicans right now. We'll have more on that in our second hour. Later in this hour, the dark network of billionaires that are supporting leftists. A note here off the top, the passing of former St. Louis Congressman William Clay Sr., dead at age 94. I remember coming to St. Louis when I first arrived. Clay Sr. was in the run for Congress again, and I do recall that his headquarters, campaign headquarters, got firebombed. That's one of the first stories I covered. And of course, he served on through his term, then later was followed up by his son, who's still in Congress now. Former St. Louis Congressman William Clay Sr., dead at age 94. Now back to Donald Trump and the Epstein case. Trump made some remarks in an interview with The Hill. And if you are a big Trump supporter, you're not going to like this. Unless you're also willing to take the stand I do, that I look at him in this issue on this point here, and on this issue with a different perspective. I don't have to buy anything and everything President Trump says. I never have. I never will. Nor should you buy everything I say. Always question. And if you have objections, state them. But here's what President Trump was saying in part in an interview, a de facto, I should say, an impromptu interview in the White House.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net, and so they try and do the Democrats' work. The Democrats are good for nothing other than these hoaxes. They're bad for policy. They're bad for picking candidates that can get elected. Like in New York, we have a communist running. He may get elected too, actually, but he'll destroy the city. I call it the Epstein hoax. Takes a lot of time and effort. Instead of talking about the great achievements, we've had a great gentleman yesterday, as you know, went on CNBC and he made the statement that Trump may go down as the greatest president of all in the United States. And instead of talking about the things we've achieved, we've had tremendous achievement. They're wasting their time with a guy who obviously had some very serious problems, who died 3-4 years ago. I'd rather talk about the success we have with the economy, the best we've ever had, and all of the things we've done, including the Middle East. I mean, you see it. Instead, they want to talk about the Epstein hoax. And the sad part is it's people that are really doing the Democrats' work. They're stupid people.
Are you stupid? Are you stupid because you want more full factual information regarding Epstein and his, quote, client list, however it's put together, and about what happened with Epstein and inside the jail? Are you stupid for wanting to know that? Well, label me stupid. And label me also a supporter of Trump on many things he wants attention for. Yes, this is a distraction for what he wants to continue to highlight. And, of course, some are saying, well, he wants it shut down because he's involved and was involved with the Epstein case. That I'm not buying. I've seen no evidence. I've seen nothing that begins to point to that. But this is just the way the left is now playing the game as well. Back to this article by Garrett Seawright with Barrett Media. And again, reference Trump and what he also had said on his True Social account. He said, a lot of my supporters have bought into this BS, hook, line, and sinker. They have not learned their lesson, probably never will. even after being conned by the lunatic left for 8 long years. No, I see the difference entirely. I think many of you do as well. But this issue dealing with, well, what are radio show talk show hosts supposed to be if they're big conservatives? What are they supposed to do? Well, let me tell you what is pointed out in this article. Again, this is by Garrett Seeger, written for Barrett Media. He said, many in the media built their brands on being the most ardent supporters of Donald Trump. Now, I can't tell you how many times I've seen smiling pictures with fawning radio hosts standing beside Trump. You've seen some of these hosts mimic Trump's statements in recent days. Clay Travis, co-host of the Clay Travis Buck Sexton Show, said, this story is not a story. The number one thing to do is just move on. You are wrong. You are wrong. Clay Travis. Salem radio host Charlie Kirk responding similarly, saying he was, quote, done talking about Epstein for the time being. That's one of those so far that I often add. I'm done talking about Epstein so far. Charlie will come back to it because he realizes you cannot cut this child in half. He went on to say, I want to trust my friends in the administration to do what needs to be done. Kirk insists he really wasn't done with talking about the Epstein files. He went on to say that. I mean, previously he had said, I'm done talking about it, but now he's saying, I'm not done talking about it, so I told you. And you got others like Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson speaking at length about the topic. The question being raised in this article, so what are news talk radio hosts going to do if you're blindly following whatever Trump has said and parroted his stance on whatever the topic du jour is? You built your bed and now it's time to lie in it. No? But that also makes you a hypocrite, doesn't it? Because while your brand and style might have been built on being anti-establishment and swamp or anti-deep state, doesn't taking your marching orders from those in D.C. torpedo that argument? He went on to say that this is one of the first times the MAGA movement has not been in lockstep with President Trump. And News Talk radio hosts have been gladly courting those listeners. Now this feels like a do-or-die moment, he says, from my perspective. You can't serve two masters. Are you going to serve your audience, or are you going to serve President Trump? I've got an answer for you. I'm going to serve the truth. I'm going to serve the truth. If you don't like what I'm saying, you know how to change the dial. If you think others should be listening to the truth, tell them to make sure they're listening to NewsTalkSTL, to Larry Connors USA. My only master is the truth on this earth. Jesus otherwise. But the leftists and the Hill, they're loving it. They're absolutely loving it. And every time Trump tries to denounce and slaps his own supporters, saying basically they're fools, that's not good. Mr. Trump, I would tell you that to your face, President Trump, right now, given the opportunity. We had a big bill pass the Senate yesterday trying to cut back some federal dollars from various programs, including all the public dollars going to the public broadcasting system, forcing PBS, NPR to play like any of the rest of us. Get your own sponsors. Obviously, there are cries from the left. Here comes Chucky Schumer.
For Republicans to turn around and slash local news and public radio in the name of fiscal responsibility is a vindictive swipe at rural America, where these stations are needed so badly. It'll leave rural communities twisting in the wind. Tens of millions of Americans rely on public broadcasts for weather alerts, local news, keeping track of City Hall, educational programs, and so much more. This affects most badly rural America, including Native communities. And these cuts couldn't come at a worse time. The floods in Texas remind us that speedy alerts and up-to-the-minute forecasts can mean the difference between life and death. And for millions, public radio and local TV are sometimes the only way to stay up to date.
Really? They don't have any other radio stations, internet? Come on, Chuck, you're lying. Frightening people. And, of course, the current president of public broadcasting is on the defense.
But one of the most significant differences, critical for moving from polarization to productivity, is that the Wikipedians who write these articles aren't actually focused on finding the truth. They're working for something that's a little bit more attainable, which is the best of what we can know right now. And after 7 years there, I actually believe that they're onto something. That for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth isn't necessarily the best place to start. In fact, I think our reverence for the truth might have become a bit of a distraction that is preventing us from finding consensus and getting important things done.
As far as the accusations that we're biased, I would stand up and say, please show me a story that concerns you, because we want to know and we want to bring that conversation back to our newsroom.
Well, there you go. You put a challenge on the floor. You know who's going to immediately grab up that glove and slap you back? Louisiana Senator John Kennedy.
I want to give you a few examples of stories that NPR has published using taxpayer money. I'll just read the headlines. First headline, NPR News Service. Michael Avenatti, quote, a profile of the media-savvy attorney. You know where Michael Avenatti is today? He's in jail. You know why? He's a crook. Here's another headline from NPR. How racism became a marketing tool for country music. I kid you not. The American taxpayers are spending $500 million a year to pay a local station to buy content that says country music is racist. Here's another headline from NPR. Donald Trump's long embrace of Vladimir Putin. A couple more headlines that NPR is putting out there using your tax dollars. This headline, monuments and teams have changed names as America reckons with racism. Birds are next. I don't know any birds that are racist. Here's another headline. Eating less beef is a climate solution. If you're a news outlet and you want to publish this kind of stuff, that is your right as an American.
But we're not going to pay for it. That's the bottom line. You put a challenge out there, Senator Kennedy is like a dog on a bone. Coming up, I want to talk about the dark money that props up leftists. I've got an author of a new book, and some of the details that he's going to lay out for you, you're going to find fascinating. You don't want to go anywhere. Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
In all these years that Wellington Environmental has been my sponsor, I've never mentioned their duct cleaning services. Allergy season is here, and Wellington crews clean air ducts daily in homes and commercial buildings, also cleaning air handling units and diffusers in commercial facilities. Why? Well, because people will see black dirt and mold on the vents, or they are actually suffering from allergies. Don't be fooled by low-cost duct cleaning providers saying they charge only per vent, because once they get on site, the price will skyrocket. Wellington does not do this, never has. Wellington will give you an estimate, and you say Larry Connors, and immediately you get a 20% discount. Call Cindy. 314-644-4930. 314-644-4930. Make your home and business better, safer with Wellington. Be well with Wellington. John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. The Oak Street Inn and Lounge has some great news. The Speakeasy will now be open on Sundays, starting at 2. Open to the public. Great for those in the industry who'll want to enjoy a Sunday fun day. Plus, enjoy sushi and cocktails. What more could you want? You want to make sure you get the code. And how do you get the code to the speakeasy? You go to the Facebook, Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook. I'll see you at Oak Street Inn and Lounge in Cottleville.
This is News Talk STL.
I'm chasing tail lights straight as a crow flies, hunting justice down a country road. I've got a shotgun, it's riding shotgun, and we're both fixing to unload. Son, I know what you've done. There's only one way to outrun me. You better pray your tank don't beat mine to eat.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Welcome back. My next guest is the president of Capital Research Center. He'd also served in the George W. Bush administration on domestic policy. Also oversaw philanthropic groups contributing to the government and the White House. Scott Walter, author of Arabella, The Dark Money Network of Leftist Billionaires Secretly Transform America. Scott, welcome aboard.
Great to be with you.
Well, is it called Arabella or Arabella? I just want to clarify that to begin with.
Sure. It's Arabella.
That's what I thought it was. This is a dark money organization?
It is a whole network of organizations. And if I don't love the term dark money because the left used it a long time to try to attack us. But turnabout's fair play. If anything's dark money, it's Arabella and their network.
So what have they been doing then, in the sense that you say how they're trying to transform secretly American policy?
Sure. One of the things they do is they have literally hundreds of fake groups like, Keep Iowa Healthy or Secure Michigan Elections, things like that. And they're designed to make you think like, well, my neighbors must be real upset about whatever they're yelling about, right? And the answer is the guy who started Keep Iowans Healthy probably never met an Iowan in his life. It's just some 20-something kid at a computer station in D.C., right, in Washington, D.C., buying Facebook ads and showing up on your Facebook feed. That's the kind of thing, that's one of the big things that they do. And they do it in basically every issue under the sun. Election integrity stuff, abortion stuff, environmental stuff. There's no end to it.
And the money just flows in, one, from individuals that are sucked into the hole, correct?
Yeah, well, the biggest money comes from the big left-wing money sources, right? So whether you're talking about Mark Zuckerberg's checkbook or the Bill Gates Foundation or the Ford Foundation or Soros's foundations. Yep. So all those guys put tons of money through the Arabella network.
Do you think they really bother to see what's involved there? They just know, here's a good socialist cause and we can get people ramped up over it?
No, I think there's, to give them credit, the operatives who are in the middle of all this, they are extremely savvy. This was an ingenious way to do it because the thing is, like that Keep Iowans Healthy, right? If you said like, well, wait a minute, I don't like the stuff they're saying. I disagree with the stuff they're saying. Let me find out more about them. Well, you can't because they're, that's ingenious, right? It's like, you can't go like, if you don't like what I'm saying, you can go look me up online. You can see who's on my board of directors. You can see what salaries people make, on and on, but the way when they do these fake groups, they're called fiscally sponsored projects is what the lawyers call them.
Oh, okay.
And they don't have a board of directors. They don't file it. I file an IRS filing every year for my group. They don't file one for their group because it doesn't really exist. It's just this name used by one of Arabella's big giant nonprofits that do dozens or even hundreds of these fake groups.
Scott, I'm busy taking notes here because I'm going to start Save the Armadillo. And I'm sure I can get some money sent in. You reckon?
I'm very confident. Very confident. Well, the Enviro guys are the dumbest in the sense that they'll do ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, and as we say in Texas, the only thing you're going to find in the center of a road is a yellow stripe and a dead armadillo sometimes.
Dead armadillo.
That's right.
Exactly.
Well, but
exactly.
But even though we quote exposing this kind of stuff, they just continue to multiply and multiply. They're like termites.
Yeah, no. Or the other thing I always talk about, like they metastasize.
Yep. So
no, it's true.
What do we do
endlessly new stuff.
What do we do about
well,
it?
What you're doing right now is actually a huge part of it. Namely, you're educating the public on this because what they really are. Arabella's network is a Wizard of Oz operation. Now, initially the Wizard of Oz is real powerful. He scares Dorothy, and he affects her behavior a lot because she's scared, right?
Yeah.
But when the dog pulls the curtain back and you see, well, it's just some old guy at a microphone, or in this case, it's just some young guy at a computer terminal. Then the wizard's not so powerful anymore. So it's really important that people know this exists. I'll give your listeners a great website for this: influencewatch.org. Influencewatch.org. It's our Wikipedia of the left. You go in there.
Okay.
Yep. And when you see like keep Missourians healthy or something, right? You search for it on Influence Watch there, and you may very well you I hope are going to find it. It's going to be, oh, this is a fake group that Arabella put together, or if it isn't Arabella, it's the Tides Foundation put together. The left has, it's just gigantic and fabulously wealthy. They're the party of the rich. I always say that because it really pisses them off. Party of the rich.
Well, when they began to put these things out with all their minions at their computers spreading out and creating these things sometimes out of thin air, they know. I mean, this is like casting a line with a tuna into the midst of sharks. It's going to be gobbled up.
Yes. Well, the media, of course, takes everything at face value when it's lefties.
But they don't want to question the other side.
Yep. No. They will. They'll say 60 groups are demanding the Senate do blah, blah, blah. It's like, are you sure it's really 60? Because, like, most of them meet at the same water cooler.
Yeah. Well, just today, and actually you made the remarks yesterday with the passage of the rescission bill, taking all federal dollars from PBS, NPR, the public broadcasting system. Chucky Schumer is out there on the floor saying, people are going to die. They won't be able to get notification of a disaster like what's happened in Texas. There's no way for them to learn about something that's happening.
Yeah, right. Because, of course, folks in Texas or Missouri on a farm, they don't have internet, right?
Some might not, but they've got cell phones. They got other ways, and they generally are alert. And they also are pretty good at looking at the skies and saying, hey, this could get bad. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I've never met a farmer who didn't know weather.
That's exactly right. In fact, you can just watch the cattle. If they all go to one side of your fence line, weather's coming. They know it. So take your cues.
Yep.
Well, again, how do we you can't really shut this down. It's, quote, actually almost free enterprise. You just have to fight it tooth and nail on each and every item.
Well, that's true. Although, I will say there's one thing you can do. And I was literally testifying a couple of days ago in Congress about all the federal funding to these a lot of these left-wing groups, not Arabella itself, but a lot of the left-wing groups get tons of federal money. And they're including NPR, for instance, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a pillar of the left.
Right.
So it matters to we can at least say you don't get my tax dollars for your advocacy.
And that is the point that's also being made by those saying they should be able to be on the same playing field as Larry Connors USA or NewsTalkSTL. We go out and get sponsors to support the program, or we don't make it.
Exactly. You don't get my tax dollars. Why should they?
Well, you know what they're also reporting from NPR or public broadcasting? We kind of love this. We love it because every time this happens, we actually get more citizen donations. Thinking we'll be off the air if they don't get more money in.
Exactly. But, when some years back when, what's his name? The Project Veritas founder, O'Keefe, James O'Keefe, had an undercover thing with the NPR folks, and NPR's own fundraising vice president said, frankly, we'd be better off if we didn't get the government money.
Yeah, and to that extent, what kind of restrictions are even put on them once they're given the check?
Yeah. Yes. So.
Well, I'm thinking that if you want to get inside the tent to see the bearded lady, you're going to have to go through PBS.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's true. Which of course funds the TV stations as well as the radio stations.
Right. I'm still waiting for my check, and I don't see it coming anytime soon. And if you continue to go into this attack on the dark money network of leftist billionaires, that's the title of the book, Arabella, the dark money network of leftist billionaires, I'm never going to get my money.
Probably not. Probably not.
Scott, I want to thank you.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, you say sorry. Well, send a check. That will make up for sorry. Scott, thank you for your time, sir.
Great to be with you.
You bet. And remember, save the armadillo. I want money to save the armadillos. I mean, well, they're facing extinction out there. Do you know how many 18-wheelers, much less passenger cars, roll over them on a regular basis? Come on, folks. We need to save the armadillos. Send me your money. Send me your money. Oh, I almost had you there. I almost got you to do that until I said, send me a check or some money, and then you kind of backed off, didn't you? Well, I'm glad Scott is bringing that to the attention. Again, the book is titled The Dark Money Network of Leftist Billionaires Secretly Transforming America. Wait till you hear the New York City mayoral candidate, how he's planning to raise some money if he needs it. Stand by, please.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
I can tell you how to get a free quick quiz to see how artificial intelligence can boost your company's potential. You go to priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. St. Louis Business Magazine listing PRI as one of the leading IT companies, and PRI has its own AI lab to develop what your business needs. priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. You want the best place to watch baseball or any sport and be able to enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys? Lit Cigar Lounge. Lit has so many events each month. You need to constantly check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook. You don't want to miss anything. Plus, you can order food from Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, delivered within minutes right to your table. By the way, we're in the season for great patio dining. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta has your table waiting. Replacing your windows and doors? Do not settle for ordinary. Go extraordinary. Renewal by Anderson, the full-service window and door replacement division of Anderson, a name trusted for more than 120 years. Their exclusive FiberX material combines the strength, durability of wood with low-maintenance features of vinyl. You get windows and doors twice as strong as vinyl, energy efficient, built to last. For a limited time, get 25% off every window, patio door, or entry door. No payments for 18 months, zero interest. This is their best new client discount. Dial pound 250, say the keyword windows, or visit rbastl.com. Pound 250, keyword windows, rbastl.com. Get your free estimate. Renewal by Anderson. Superior products. Exceptional service. Hey, if you're 50 or older, you do not want to take any risk with your money. In fact, you want Leslie Consulting. My friend Bob Leslie can show you a gain and retain plan. It means that you never lose. Plus, you get up to a 20% bonus on day one. Leslie Consulting, a leader in brokerage and risk management. 314-721-0066. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is News Talk STL.
See, the ways of this world just bring you to tears. Keep the Lord in your heart and you'll have nothing to fear. Live the best that you can. been trying, I just can't catch a break. There's too much in this world I can't seem to shake.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
The overall impression on me was, this guy is not a communist. He's not a socialist. He's an advocate for small c capitalism. And that, he really is fighting for the little business guy that's trying to eke out a living in New York. Half of all New Yorkers, get their jobs from small business.
Now, those remarks are regarding Mamdani, who is going to carry the Democrat banner in the New York mayoral election. They're made by Republican Congressman Mark Takano, that he's accepting, if that is correct, that he's accepting that. I'm looking again, make sure this is not wrong. It's Mark Takano, American politician in the U.S. House since 2013, representing California, and said, hey, in talking to Mamdani, I don't see him really as anything that's going to be harmful. I don't know how he's reached that conclusion. I do know this story about Mamdani that's come out, and this is very interesting. In fact, I was sharing it with someone earlier today because Mamdani knows he's got to, one, create his campaign, got to fund it. And what if he runs out of money? And if he's not only trying to keep his campaign going, but his lifestyle to that extent? Well, therein draws something else you need to keep in mind. If he is somewhat claiming that he's not really going to be involved in anything on, let's say, communism, Marxism, socialism, then you need to be aware of this story that appeared in the New York Post. How's he going to have all of his money? He's getting a lot of out-of-state sponsors, some pledging something like total more than $350,000 since he got the mayoral primary win. But he's also been stating that even when he didn't have a job, what he was able to do, his parents are very much into leftist ideas. In fact, his father is apparently on a board or a group that is calling for intifada and basically Jew hater all the way. But then he also says, if I run out of money, you're going to love that. You're going to love this. I can always go to my parents. He's 33 years old, and he's still going to mommy and daddy for money. And yet he thinks he will know how to run New York City for the better. Really? There's a Muslim cleric that stepped forward and said, you got to understand what this guy plans to do if he gets into office.
The world has divided into two. One is Islam and those who want to destroy that and destroy society. Look, Islam will enter every household, whether you like it or not. Donald Trump, inshallah, soon you will see we have a plan in place to go visit him and call him toward Islam. We're going to be reaching out to everybody. As Muslim, as an ummah, we're going to be reaching out. And you're going to be seeing more and more of these types of people who know that this society and the direction that it's going in is not the right direction, are going to be coming to Islam.
Now, again, he's pushing the Muslim religion. That's understandable. He's a cleric. But he's saying basically Mamdani, if he's elected, he will want to go into everyone's home with the Sharia police to make sure you are practicing the Muslim religion. That's what the cleric claims. In the meantime, Mamdani is still trying to support his campaign, keep everything going. Let me give this specific of a piece that was in a clip from a Zoom call posted by Washington Free Beacon. Mamdani says in this clip, I worked until January. Then I took time away from my job. And one of the major reasons I could do that because I knew that if I ran out of my savings, my family would be able to support me. That's right back to using other people's money for what you want, isn't it? Yes, it is, Larry. New York Post columnist Kirsten Fleming posted, "The one thing my parents told me, if you aren't working and you don't have money, we cannot and we will not support you." But this guy is very comfortable with other people's money, as are most Marxists and socialists. Of course, that takes us back to Margaret Thatcher, who made a statement. The problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money. A former CIA officer posted, "Classic socialism. Once I blow through my money, I'll take yours." Another posting on Twitter, Mamdani and every other American socialist in 2025. That's their game plan. That is true. When they run out of their money and they can't get any more from mommy and daddy, they'll come get your money. In the meantime, we've had our federal government just throwing money around like crazy because they had it and because they could get it from you. That's why we got the deficits we have. That's why we needed to take money back from public broadcasting. And in doing so, it's obviously alarmed them and upset them because now they will have to be doing like commercial stations do. That means get commercials, not federal dollars. Granted, we'll take offers and donations as well. Believe me, you can send me that all the time. No, don't do that. Don't send me any money. I used to have, when I was working on one of the TV stations, get an envelope from a lady all the time, and I'd open it up and see various ragged screeds of whatever she was complaining about, and I got to the point where I just would toss them. I wouldn't open them anymore. But then after about 7-8 months, I'd said, I'll open. This one feels a little thicker. And inside, I found $21 bills. I thought, have I been throwing money away? I don't mean that I want it, but I just wanted to know if I was doing that. The next letter I got, some weeks later, I opened it, and this time there was two $20 bills inside. They would have gone into the trash. I took them to the station, said, give them to some charity, and then I had to be very careful of any letters for this woman again because I didn't want her saying, I'm giving money to Larry Connors. She was, and I can't deny it. Thank God it never became public until, I just did it, didn't I? Oh, there I go again. Put myself in the doghouse. But PBS, one of their reporters wants you to understand how valuable they are to the nation, and especially in the face of having to deal with Donald Trump.
I think what we're seeing is a president who's determined to fly in the face of the experts and his own health officials, environmental experts, as well as people who are saying that there's really a myth of America, that this idea that America treated people well, that they treated men and women equally, that we founded this country just by our own wits, that is actually a lie, and that in fact what we're seeing is a celebration of America's independence on land that was stolen from Native Americans, and it's being seen and overlooked by two presidents, their figures rather, that owned slaves, and a third president in Roosevelt who talked about going westward and who oversaw the desecration of native lands. That's why you saw so many people in this country, especially people of color, look really, really disturbed when the president and then candidate Trump started saying, "Make America Great Again." He's really fitting in this history that is in some ways a Republican history about the idea that they're really looking at white resentment and giving people who are worried about the future of America, but who are also angry at the idea of America browning, and giving them a place to say, you know what, you are the victim. This country owes you more. Instead of looking toward the future and saying, actually, let's have an America where we're not believing in this myth. Let's have an America where people do understand the history of America. President Trump is saying, I want to be on the side of the myth of America.
That is a PBS White House correspondent, Yamiche Alcindor, and that was in Trump's first presidential setting. I'm looking at this was, I don't see an exact date, but she was basically attacking his 2020 Mount Rushmore speech. Yes, the white man and all those that were with him moved westward. And then many were brought from China to the West Coast. But how are you going to break out for reparations? How are you going to say that you shouldn't be where you are because of something that shouldn't have happened? You can't. I've told you repeatedly that I do agree we have some sins and stains on our nation's history. We do. And that would include the way we treated the Indians, which I would say were, quote, the true Americans. But at the same time, we're never going to correct all that. We'll make amends as we can. And we have various tribal regulations have been put in place, but that doesn't satisfy everything for all minorities, obviously. Certainly those that have ancestors who are here because their ancestors were brought here as slaves. They were in Africa and they were rounded up by other blacks and sold as slaves. Every nation has done that over the history. They did it with other people. I mean, they did it with their own people. Divide and conquer, create their own tribe, make them your slave until they rebel against you and overturn everything. Vic Porcelli has a regular guest on his program, Kataline. Karen is great pundit, commentator, columnist, talk show host, has her own program, has her own podcast, spouting off, but she's always very direct on some of her remarks. This morning, she made some remarks that might actually upset some of you. That story when we continue.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C, and don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now, open, Napoli Kirkwood.
This is Larry Connors, USA. Larry Connors, USA.
I took the chip off my shoulder against Christians a long time ago. And, you know, see people as individuals. But I'll tell you, I've been really concerned. And this split in the party, in the conservative movement, which we're all watching with concern, is pushing, I'm sort of looking at my note on Twitter just now, is pushing longtime Jew haters out of the closet. Because that kind of Jew hatred that my parents grew up with, that they mostly attributed to Christians, a certain kind of Christian bigotry, religious, ethnic bigotry towards Jews. You can't deny that is, and what my parents and grandparents were always cautioning us against.
And she's right. And you cannot argue against it. If you really know, if you're a Christian, if you really know the basis of Christianity, and you have the Old and New Testament, it's all right there in front of you. But you need more context on what she was saying, because she added a lot more detail that fleshes out that point and making it clear to you. A lot of Jew haters are now out in the open and they think they're free to do what they want, and they have been doing so. Jews are not the only ones who are supposed to put them back behind the door. Christians should as well. Anyone who believes in peace and freedom of religion should. But we reached a point where we're not doing that. In our next hour, I'm going to let you hear a more extensive piece from the Karen Kataline interview this morning with Vic Porcelli and Ken Williams on their morning program. That'll be coming up in our next hour. And also, when Ronald Reagan granted amnesty to 3 million illegals in this nation, and he was saying basically that this will be the last amnesty program. But there are at least 10 Republicans right now pushing for another amnesty program. You want details? That's part of the education from News Talk STL, Larry Connors USA, coming up. And remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can hear podcasts of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. You and I might have something in common, back pain. I can tell you where I go for help, Esquire Sports Medicine, the spine of St. Louis. They can put athletes back on the field so they can clearly help us. Esquire Sports Medicine, hands-on chiropractic help on Big Bend, just north of Highway 40, 314-644-0885, EsquireSportsMedicine.com, EsquireSportsMedicine.com. Great patio season to enjoy any of the Cafe Napoli locations. How about the Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield? Enjoying coal-fired pizza, nothing else like it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. A few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, where you can enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys. Check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook for details, plus gift cards for friends. I'll see you at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. It's that time of season when families, businesses are moving. For local or long distance, I endorse McGuire Moving. Get a date set soon before the schedules are booked. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. McGuire is constantly giving back to our veterans, such as Support Dogs for Our Brave. So with McGuire, you're getting excellent service and helping our vets. McGuireMoving.com. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check VincentsJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. VincentsJewelers.com. VincentsJewelers.com. Question: are you looking to unlock the full potential of artificial intelligence for your business? I want you to meet my friends at PRI Global, named by the St. Louis Business Journal as a leading IT consulting firm. 25 years helping local and worldwide companies. PRI Global has a free survey to determine where your company stands in your AI journey. You simply go to priglobal.ai. priglobal.ai. And I also have a phone number, so get ready to copy that number. And I'll remind you that PRI Global has its own AI lab, creating, adapting, developing, pushing the boundaries for what AI can do for you. Here's the number, 636-689-0545. 636-689-0545. Or visit priglobal.ai. priglobal.ai.
This is News Talk STL.
answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
I call it the Epstein hoax.
Donald Trump is turning on a fractured MAGA movement.
It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net.
The president accusing what he's called his past supporters of buying into bull, hook, line and sinker. He also described them as weaklings, arguing he doesn't want their support anymore.
The sad part is it's people that are really doing the Democrats' work. They're stupid people.
Disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein died in a prison cell in 2019 while facing sex trafficking charges. Skepticism and conspiracies about his death and a possible client list were amplified by Donald Trump's allies and appointees.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
But when the Trump administration reaffirmed that Epstein died by suicide and concluded there was no such client list, it angered many of the president's high-profile backers.
And that is a fact, but there's more information coming out. Even as I speak, I'll break it down for you. Welcome to hour number 2. Larry Connors USA. We're here every Monday through Friday for you from 6 to 8 p.m. And when we're on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch the program. You go to NewsTalkSTL Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, Larry Connors USA Rumble or Facebook, and everything goes up as a podcast later at NewsTalkSTL, LarryConnorsUSA.com, Larry Connors USA Facebook. Every day, 6 to 8 p.m. with Larry Connors USA. You get news, analysis, opinion, and education. And in fact, in this first segment coming up, some education that many of you may not even know, and maybe some of you have a vague recollection, and some of you didn't think it would ever be where Reagan would side with illegal immigration. We'll break that story down for you as we move forward. Back to the issue with Trump calling out his supporters, and he's doing that. Listen, I will restate to you again. I will not support Trump without questioning, period. I won't support any man without questioning. And raising a question does not make me a critic. It just makes me one inquisitive. I need answers. And questioning the fact that we're not getting everything on the Epstein case that we should does not detract from everything he's accomplished around the world, dealing with various nations, and for what he's doing for our economy. They're separate items. Trump is at a point where he's fed up that he's not, I guess, getting enough glory, attention, applause for the great things he's achieved. I think he has. But he thinks it's being muddled by the Epstein case. Those on the left are saying the reason he doesn't like it is because he's tied into Epstein. I don't believe that either. But until we get everything out in front of us that can be presented, you don't know, do you? Here's how Trump addressed the situation in an impromptu conference in the Oval Office.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net, and so they try and do the Democrats' work. The Democrats are good for nothing other than these hoaxes. They're bad for policy. They're bad for picking candidates that can get elected. Like in New York, we have a communist running. He may get elected too, actually, but he'll destroy the city. I call it the Epstein hoax. It takes a lot of time and effort. Instead of talking about the great achievements, we've had a great gentleman. Yesterday, as you know, went on CNBC and he made the statement that Trump may go down as the greatest president of all in the United States. And instead of talking about the things we've achieved, we've had tremendous achievement. They're wasting their time with a guy who obviously had some very serious problems, who died 3-4 years ago. I'd rather talk about the success we have with the economy, the best we've ever had, and all of the things we've done, including the Middle East. I mean, you see it. Instead, they want to talk about the Epstein hoax. And the sad part is it's people that are really doing the Democrats' work. They're stupid people.
Are you stupid? I'm questioning it, and I'm not doing it for the Democrats. I'm doing it because Larry Connors wants a very clear and full answer. I don't know that I'll ever get it, but I can walk and chew gum at the same time. But Trump is wanting us to walk away from the Epstein story in its entirety. One of our station owners, Jeff, gave me a piece today that was written by Garrett Seawright for Barrett Media, titled, "Do the Epstein Files Mark a Fork in the Road for News Talk Radio Hosts?" Not for me, they don't. But he goes on to say, so what are News Talk Radio hosts going to do if you're blindly following whatever Trump has said, parroting his stance on whatever the topic du jour is? You built your bed, now it's time to lie in it? No. He goes on to say, this is one of the first times MAGA movement has not been in lockstep with President Trump. And while news media hosts have gladly courted those listeners, this feels like a do or die moment from my perspective. You cannot serve two masters. As I said the first hour, I'm not serving Master Trump. I'm not serving Master Democrats. I'm serving the truth and you. But, of course, the left is going to take its swings, which is understandable. The Hill jumping on it quickly to point out about Dan Bongino. He recently looked like maybe he was going to resign. They have written a piece I'm reading here, quoting a source, quote, close to the White House. Dan is a brand of MAGA that is fiercely loyal to the president, but he's also somebody who's made a heck of a media career going into depth about issues that the base cares about, whether it be things like Epstein or the Trump assassination attempt at Butler. Dan is considered a trusted voice. I think this is someone who is honored to serve the Trump administration, but also put his brand on the line when it came, we're going to get to the bottom of Epstein. They went on to point out that Bongino is a former New York City police officer, former Secret Service agent, 7 million followers. Again, this source close to the White House said, based upon when he had his radio show, and even now, when Dan Bongino speaks, the base listens. On his show in 2024, Bongino said the government's goal on January 6, 2021, that was when Biden went in, was to shut down efforts by Republicans to question the certification of the 2020 election. On Epstein, Bongino has said and told his listeners in 2023, listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Do not let that story go. Keep your eye on it. But as a government official now, he can't really speak out like that. But you can't take back the words you've already said. And one of the MAGA people that's pushing reluctantly, almost it seems, to continue to keep this story front and center is Missouri Senator Josh Hawley.
I thought what the president said yesterday, I think it was yesterday, was right. I think he said the Attorney General ought to release whatever she thinks is credible and appropriate to release. That is exactly the right answer, I think. I mean, I think she should do that. I think, and my view is...
She has not released enough, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's... Here's what I think is maybe a little difficult to believe. The idea that DOJ and the FBI, who've prosecuted cases relating to this, don't have any idea who Epstein's clients were and that he had no record of it, of the clients. I don't know. I find that kind of hard to believe. I mean, my view is make public everything you can make public. That's what the president said yesterday. I think that would be, if they want my advice, and they don't, but if DOJ were asking for my advice, that's what I would say. Make it all public. Make as much public as you can. Listen, I've been an attorney general of the state of Missouri. I understand, like, these agencies often, they're always pressuring you as the prosecutor. They're always saying, please don't make this public. Please don't make this public. I just think whenever you can, so long as it doesn't interfere with prosecution, I think you ought to make it public. And in this case, I just say let's make it all public and get it out there.
That's what we should do. And by the way, even CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton, looking at a survey, said he was surprised to find Trump's standing with Republican voters has actually gone up despite all the complaints, jumping from 86% to 88%. That's not big, but it's still 2 points up, not down. Quinnipiac's poll showing a similar jump from 87 to 90%. There is a move underway to grant a special amnesty for millions of illegals. Now, before we jump in to this current proposal, let's go back in time when President Reagan, signed an amnesty bill.
This bill, the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986 that I'll sign in a few minutes, is the most comprehensive reform of our immigration laws since 1952. It's the product of one of the longest and most difficult legislative undertakings in the last 3 Congresses. Further, it's an excellent example of a truly successful bipartisan effort. The administration and the allies of immigration reform on both sides of the Capitol and both sides of the aisle work together to accomplish these critically important reforms to control illegal immigration. In 1981, this administration asked the Congress to pass a comprehensive legislative package including employer sanctions, other measures to increase enforcement of the immigration laws, and legalization. The Act provides these 3 essential components. Future generations of Americans will be thankful for our efforts to humanely regain control of our borders and thereby preserve the value of one of the most sacred possessions of our people, American citizenship.
That was January 1, 1982. The Immigration Reform and Control Act basically gave amnesty, permanent residence, to about 3 million Americans. He never made immigration a major focus of his administration. But he did add that now many of these men and women will be able to step into the sunlight, and ultimately, if they choose, they may become Americans. One of his speechwriters pointed out that Reagan, it was basically part of his bones, his understanding that the country was fundamentally open to those who wanted to join us here. Of course, the issue now has been coming in legally or illegally. Well, Reagan thought that would be the last amnesty bill that would be needed. No one could foresee what Joe Biden was going to do to our nation. And there's consternation as to what to do about the illegals that were brought in previously and had children, and about those coming across once Biden was in control. Congresswoman Salazar of Florida is offering the Dignity Act.
If you are undocumented and you have been in the country for more than 5 years, you do not have a criminal record, you're working and paying taxes, you can come out of the shadows with no fear and apply for the dignity status. That means they will pay a fine of $7,000 over 7 years, buy their own health insurance with no access to any federal programs, and contribute 1% of their salary to the United States Treasury. That is $50 billion plus. Just do the math. In return, they will never be deported. They will be able to go home for Christmas or to go bury their mother and come back to the United States to continue working and paying taxes. It gives them a dignified life in the promised land, period.
That is Florida Republican Congresswoman Maria Elvira Salazar. Her district covers part of South Miami and then down quite some ways, not quite to Homestead. She's going to have a lot of those in her constituency that's going to like it. She's also getting support from at least 9 to 10 other legislators, all pushing her act or something else like it. Congresswoman Salazar said, it takes a lot of courage to step up and say you might be part of the solution. But the Dignity Act also revives part of Joe Biden's labor neighbor scheme and President Bush's 2001 any willing worker plan. Some of the legislators that have signed on with it and are for it, that is the Republicans, Gabe Evans of Colorado, Kelly of Pennsylvania, several from Florida and California, and it's got at least 10 Democrats. It may well be passed. And it might be a good bill once you get into it. And as she's saying, if you have nothing against, no other crimes or activities against you, and you're going to pay a fine of $7,000 over 7 years, I'm not going to simply dismiss it out of hand because our borders are closed now. We're dealing with those who are here. We're not, hopefully, God help us, we'll never have another open border policy like we got with Biden. And keep in mind, as Carolyn Levitt of the White House says, ICE agents are still at work and doing it at risk.
Millions of illegal aliens invaded cities like New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles. They stole the benefits that should be going to hardworking, tax-paying Americans, and they committed crimes all across this country, and many American lives have been lost. So now the president has empowered federal law enforcement to actually do the jobs they signed up to do, to remove these public safety threats from our communities. And it is shameful that you have elected leaders who are elected to protect their American citizen constituents who are aiding and abetting this violence against federal law enforcement. You look at Los Angeles and the raid that ICE just conducted on a marijuana facility. 300 illegal criminals were pulled out of that facility, some of them unaccompanied minors. By the way, the Biden administration lost thousands of children that this administration is focused on finding with law enforcement operations like these. And there was also child predators and convicted murderers who were picked up in that operation as well. God bless the men and women of ICE. They are heroes, and they are great men and women who put on that uniform every day and deserve to go home safely to their families at night. And the Democrats who are allowing this violence to take place against them should be ashamed of themselves.
I agree fully. And, of course, there is that issue she raised that a lot of Americans may not have jobs because of all these illegals here. There's still a lot to be worked out, even if you go forward with the Salazar Dignity Act program, a form of an amnesty. We'll be spending more time on that. That's why you want to stay with Larry Connors USA. We're going to continue to follow that and others. But coming up next, Karen Kataline this morning on Vic Porcelli Show and what she had to say about Jew haters and Christians. Lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors USA.
I want to tell you more about Wellington Environmental's dustless blasting services. Wellington can blast paint, grease, graffiti, even stripes off parking lots. Truly amazing and powerful. But can Wellington blast something more sensitive? Yes, Wellington can use dry ice to blast soot and odors off smoke-damaged surfaces right after a fire. Currently, Wellington uses dry ice to clean mold off wood inside a home. Why? Well, dry ice immediately disappears, turns into a vapor. That means no mess to clean up, no damaged surfaces. You need to check with Wellington, always researching and practicing with new, better, faster, safer equipment and products for you. And it's very easy to schedule an estimator for your next project. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 644-4930. Be well with Wellington. McGuire Moving is silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com. Back pain? Follow me to Esquire Sports Medicine, where they've got your back. Esquire is the oldest sports medicine clinic in St. Louis. Dr. Draghi and his team of chiropractors can get you back to work, back to life, without the pain. New patients usually scheduled within 24 hours. 314-644-0885. 644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. I've got a great evening planned for you. We start with dining at the Oak Street Inn Lounge in Cottleville. We enjoy sunset on the rooftop, then down to the speakeasy. Just one visit, you're going to see why I'm always talking about the Oak Street Inn and Lounge. Plus, you might want to plan a staycation, a romantic getaway. Check out OakStreetInnandLounge.com for various events this summer. Oak Street Inn and Lounge, Cottleville. Oak Street Inn and Lounge, Cottleville.
This is News Talk STL.
Your own personal Jesus. Someone to hear your prayers, someone who cares. Your own personal Jesus. Someone to hear your prayers, someone who's there.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I took the chip off my shoulder against Christians a long time ago, and, see people as individuals. But I'll tell you, I've been really concerned. And this split in the party, in the conservative movement, which we're all watching with concern, is pushing, I'm sort of looking at my note on Twitter just now, is pushing longtime Jew haters out of the closet. Because that kind of Jew hatred that my parents grew up with, that they mostly attributed to Christians, a certain kind of Christian bigotry, religious, ethnic bigotry towards Jews. You can't deny that is, and what my parents and grandparents were always cautioning us against.
That is exactly correct, although you might not like hearing it. That's Karen Kataline. She has her own program. She's a commentator, conservative commentator, and a guest often on the Vic Porcelli Show. That was from this morning in an interview she was doing with Vic Porcelli and Ken Williams. And they were talking about, as you heard, the division that's going on right now, part of it dealing with the MAGA people and Trump and the Epstein case. But she's saying everything else that's also going on is basically pushing Jew haters out of the closet into the streets, which they have been doing. Under the campuses, on the campus yards, attacking, threatening Jewish students simply because of their faith, being more open and Jew-hating in their words and their choice of remarks about those they consider may not even be Jews, but they make a remark like. And she's also correct about where our history has been with that. It is hard to hear. It's just as hard as it is to hear the N-word thrown around. And slavery was part of our nation. That's all hard to hear, but it's a fact. You can't deny it. You can't run from it. You need to face it. I'm going to let you hear more of her remarks in context in a minute because she's brilliant. She's also a funny guest on with the Ken and Vic, I think, a couple times a week. She is a Columbia University-trained social worker, but obviously very bright author, commentator, and again, her own podcast called Spouting Off. I'll give you an example of a couple things she has stated on her Twitter account. Talking about one time recently about Biden and the auto pen signatures. She stated, "Get the zombie to confirm he made all the decisions." Even though the whole reason people need confirmation is because he was and still is a zombie. I think she's right about that. I think she picked it up as a requote from NOAAReport.com, but that's kind of where her head is. She is a strong conservative. So when she's talking about, quote, Christians who hate Jews And I've known some in the past that are, I mean, I don't want to be around them any more than I want to be around those who like to drop the N-word like they're dropping pennies. And that would include black people who do it as well. And I don't like it when Jews go against other Jews. I have one of my long-term friends. Well, I've got several. I'm not trying to say, I got Jewish friends, but I do. But one of them has told me a funny joke that because it came from him, I've repeated it and referred to it coming from a Jew because it, on one hand, takes all of the baggage we have put around the Jewish people and population and encapsulates it in such a way that there's some humor. But Karen Kataline this morning was getting very serious as to why we have allowed some of this stuff to happen and to escalate. Karen Kataline on the Vic Porcelli Show.
It's a complicated set of issues. What breaks my heart is that people that I've stood alongside on the conservative movement, and this is very raw for me right now, are quick to vilify all Jews because now the taboo of doing that is off. And now we're finding out, and it breaks my heart, I'm telling you, people lumping all Jews together with the very familiar kind of stories that have been around forever. You know, the Jews control everything. They're evil. They're nasty. They don't accept Jesus as God. Therefore, they're devils, and it's a devil religion, and they control everything. We've heard it for so many thousands of years. Honestly, it is the oldest, most historic kind of hatred. There's no shortage of really bad guys of every religion and faith. Christians make up massively, and Muslims, massively more numbers. And when you see a Jeffrey Dahmer, or I could go on down the list, who says those Christians, that's the problem?
Right.
You know, it's so confounding because I know this one person. I mean, she's a private citizen. She's from the South. And now she's revealing her hatred towards Jews. This is a person I've known for 25 years.
Oh my God.
We are conservatives. Together, we love Trump and liberty. And now suddenly, everybody who's a Jew who stands up for the state of Israel is part of the cabal of the Epstein whatever. It is really of grave concern to me, not just personally, but not just for the country, for the coalition of Trump. And also because I don't give a damn if people don't like me because how I was born, or my name was Karen, or I'm short and chubby, or I'm Jewish. I don't care. What I care about is that this kind of hatred spurs people on to go in and burn Jews in Boulder, Colorado. This is what scares me and worries me.
Right.
You know, and the problem is we don't have the facts. I am as interested in the facts as any human being, as you are, as the people I was listening to that came on before you. They want to know. But everybody thinks they know. Tucker Carlson, who there's a rumor that he's being paid now by Muslim interests. And I take that with a grain of salt, too, because how can I prove it? But people are because there's such an absence of information, people are quick to jump to their earliest and oldest prejudices. That's not illegal. But remember to be responsible because there's a lot of very unhinged people out there. You run around like we watch the left, calling Trump Hitler. We see what happens. We've got to be more circumspect and careful about this stuff.
That is Karen Kataline this morning on the Vic Porcelli Show. She is a political commentator as well, Jewish, and I second everything she said. She's right. This linkage, Epstein, that's Jewish, right? Well, That's why we need to go after, and that's why the MAGA people want it, and Jew hatred coming out. I've had relatives in the past that have made it clear, oh, the Jews killed Christ, so you can't love them. God won't love them. And the same relatives also were all about, the blacks know their place. They stay in their place. We're all good. Separate but equal type stuff. Karen had written, prior to that piece she did with Vic on his program, part of what you were just listening to. I'm heartbroken the growing split on the right, reference Epstein, is pushing longtime Jew haters out of the closet because blaming and vilifying all Jews is fashionable once again. The left loves it since exploiting existing prejudice for the revolution is their M.O. And she is right. If you don't have information, prejudice might jump to the forefront and become your base. I taught decades ago to industry giants in Houston, oil and gas businesses, saying if you have an explosion or something at your plant, you need to call the reporters in and let them see what's going on, and you need to talk to them. But if you don't, stories are going to be out there anyway, and they may be inaccurate, they may be partly true, they may be fully true, but if you don't have control of, if you don't give the information and let it be seen, then hysteria takes over, or in this case, prejudice. So to my dear Jewish friend, he always says, Larry, you know what a Jewish dilemma is? No, I don't. What would be a Jewish dilemma? Now, this has to do, obviously, with their faith, not eating pork. He says, a sign that says, free pork. He's humorous. But we do need to remember love, not hate. Coming up, getting rid of PBS.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
I've got a phone number for you and a website where you can take a free, quick survey to learn how to use artificial intelligence, AI, to put your company on a fast track to the future. Here's the number. It's a 636 area code, 636-689-0545. 689-0545. This is PRI Global. And recently, the St. Louis Business Journal named PRI Global as a leading IT consulting company. 25 years working with hundreds of companies, several Fortune 500, locally and around the world. PRI Global has its own AI lab to develop what's best for your company. Take the free survey and be on your way to the future. 636-689-0545. 689-0545. Or go direct, priglobal.ai. priglobal.ai. Replacing your windows and doors? Do not settle for ordinary. Go extraordinary. Renewal by Anderson, the full-service window and door replacement division of Anderson, a name trusted for more than 120 years. Their exclusive FiberX material combines the strength and durability of wood with low-maintenance features of vinyl. You get windows and doors twice as strong as vinyl, energy efficient, built to last. For a limited time, get 25% off every window, patio door, or entry door. No payments for 18 months, zero interest. This is their best new client discount. Dial pound 250, say the keyword windows, or visit rbastl.com. Pound 250, keyword windows, rbastl.com. Get your free estimate. Renewal by Anderson. Superior products, exceptional service. You've worked hard for your money, so protect it. Meet my friend Bob Leslie and ask about the Gain and Retain Plan. Leslie Consulting, 40 years in the St. Louis area as a leader in brokerage and risk management. Call 314-721-0066, 721-0066. Oh, and ask Bob how he was the L.A. Dodger #1 pick. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is News Talk STL.
Well, I started out with $1 lone dollar, gambled with a man and I won me another, bought me a gun and I robbed my brother. I'm bad, but I don't care, boys. Gonna be a millionaire.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
For Republicans to turn around and slash local news and public radio in the name of fiscal responsibility is a vindictive swipe at rural America, where these stations are needed so badly. It'll leave rural communities twisting in the wind. Tens of millions of Americans rely on public broadcasts for weather alerts, local news, keeping track of City Hall, educational programs, and so much more. This affects most badly rural America, including Native communities. And these cuts couldn't come at a worse time. The floods in Texas remind us that speedy alerts and up-to-the-minute forecasts can mean the difference between life and death. And for millions, public radio and local TV are sometimes the only way to stay up to date.
That is Senator Chuck Schumer saying, without public broadcasting corporation in operation with PBS and NPR, people will die. They will die. They will not get alerts and weather alerts and warnings, as if there's no other radio station or TV station that would tell them, hey, bad stuff is coming. Get ready for it. Or even the internet. And on top of that, he's appealing to think of the rural people. He does not give a damn about rural America. It's flyover country to him. But he thinks this will be something they can understand. They live out on the farm. I know they rely on PBS and NPR. I want to hear and see from a farmer that lives and breathes public broadcasting. I don't know of any farmer or rancher or anyone in the rural area that they built their life around PBR and public broadcasting. Yesterday, and what he was complaining about in advance of the vote, and it did get by the Senate with the Vice President Vance's help as well, but actually it ended up passing by 51-48, so he was not needed to break a tie. Obviously, one did not vote. I haven't bothered to look up, see who it was. I could care less. Even if they had 51-49, it still got signed into law. This is, again, broadcasting institutions, NPR, PBS, will lose their flow of taxpayer dollars. Now it's been approved by the House, now approved by the Senate. We go back to the House for some final revisions and sent right to the president's desk. It is part of a $9 billion package of federal spending cuts. Overseas aid is included as well, but people aren't going to starve because of that. We're basically clawing back money that's being misused, misspent. If it's used properly, well, I don't want anyone to starve. And if you live on a farm and you rely on PBS or NPR for all your information, I'm going to say something here. I'm going to say it. You're a fool. You're a fool if you're relying simply on them. Now, they do some legitimate programming from time to time. I will grant that. And they used to have some good, balanced debate-type programs and other programs. And they've done excellent things like Downton Abbey, things of this nature, and National Geographic-type stuff. We're talking about $500 million being taken back from all these stations. And there's a report that I've seen from one source that says actually they like this because they're able to raise more money from their sponsor, the individuals. Every time they have their public service drive, you know what their cry will be now? We don't get any federal dollars anymore. You're going to have to send more money in. And the people will. Every time this threat has even come up, they get more generous donations from the public. If you want to give your dollars to them, so be it. But don't take my tax dollars and use it for it. Here's a view of PBS as expressed by Louisiana Senator John Kennedy.
I don't think the federal government using taxpayer money should be subsidizing any form of media. The president of public broadcasting, for instance, has made it very clear that she thinks that, in her words, America is, quote, addicted to white supremacy, end quote. She has said, in her words, we should stop using terms boy and girl because that's confusing to people. The president of public broadcasting is entitled to her opinion. This is America. She's not entitled to $600 million from the American taxpayer to advance her opinion. And we're going to cut the funding off like it was a dead stump.
Like a dead stump. We're done with it. And I love it. But let's give you some balance here. On the NPR side, the president of the public broadcasting system talks about all the value they bring to the table and then basically throws a challenge into the face of Senator Kennedy.
But one of the most significant differences, critical for moving from polarization to productivity, is that the Wikipedians who write these articles aren't actually focused on finding the truth. They're working for something that's a little bit more attainable, which is the best of what we can know right now. And after 7 years there, I actually believe that they're onto something. That for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth isn't necessarily the best place to start. In fact, I think our reverence for the truth might have become a bit of a distraction that is preventing us from finding consensus and getting important things done.
As far as the accusations that we're biased, I would stand up and say, please show me a story that concerns you, because we want to know and we want to bring that conversation back to our newsroom.
All right. We're going to give you some of those directly in just a moment, but your remarks that the relevance for the truth might be distracting. What do you mean that? And you claim that you're doing the best for the American people, and you want to say the truth might be distracting? All right, so you threw down the gauntlet and said, you say that we got complaints and we're doing things wrong and we're misusing the money. Give me some examples, Senator Kennedy.
I want to give you a few examples of stories that NPR has published using taxpayer money. I'll just read the headlines. First headline, NPR News Service. Michael Avenatti, quote, a profile of the media-savvy attorney. You know where Michael Avenatti is today? He's in jail. You know why? He's a crook. Here's another headline from NPR. How racism became a marketing tool for country music. I kid you not. The American taxpayers are spending $500 million a year to pay a local station to buy content that says country music is racist. Here's another headline from NPR. Donald Trump's long embrace of Vladimir Putin. Couple more headlines that NPR is putting out there using your tax dollars. This headline, monuments and teams have changed names as America reckons with racism. Birds are next. I don't know any birds that are racist. Here's another headline, eating less beef is a climate solution. If you're a news outlet and you want to publish this kind of stuff, that is your right as an American. But I'm not for taking $500 million every single year and giving it to these stations to the exclusion of everybody else so they can do it.
Nope, shouldn't do it. But they would continue. You know why? Because it's not their money. It's not their money. That's the whole point of what they do. They're more than glad to take your money and use it. And if they need more, they just go back to the well. And, of course, Congress was gladly giving them more money for public broadcasting. An agency, according to the head of it, as you just heard a moment ago, we're a little concerned that the truth might be distracting. Oh, what happened to the line, the truth shall set you free? And sometimes the truth will not pay the bills. If you're going to speak the truth, people will turn away, not listen to you. This division inside the Republican Party right now, MAGA people in general, other Republicans as well, about what's happening with the Epstein probe and what's not happening with it. And Trump continuing trying to push it, just move on, let's get over it. We don't need to be focusing on this guy. Look at what we're accomplishing for the nation. I will agree with President Trump to that extent. Look at what he's accomplished for our nation and for the world. But I'm not walking away from the Epstein story. I want more information. I know whether you want to call it a list of Epstein clients or a shopping list. I don't care what you call it, but you know there were people that he had contact with, he could reach out to. And Giselle Maxwell indicating she might be willing to testify in front of Congress under oath. Good. Let's do that. Carolyn Levitt, White House spokeswoman, has said, again, when you look at what Trump has accomplished, not only for us, but for the world, we are obviously the best nation in the world.
And all of the naysayers, all of the so-called economic experts who doubted this president and his economic formula are now eating their words. In fact, there was a story on the cover of the Wall Street Journal today saying that those fears of recession that everyone was ranting and raving about have now cooled because the economy and everyone from Wall Street to Main Street understands this is a president who is a businessman and he knows what he's doing. Pro-growth, higher wages, less inflation, less taxes, and more money back in people's pockets. And look at the investments that have poured into our country. We have companies all over the world who are coming to build factories and create jobs with American hands and American labor right here in the United States of America. This is the best country on the planet to do business in. And that's something President Trump promised the American worker. I was with him on the campaign when he traversed this country and promised the American worker he was going to stand up for them. And his economic agenda has surely done that. And all of the so-called experts, they have been proven wrong. The president knows what he's doing. He wants to bring growth back to this country. He wants to end the Biden inflation crisis, and he already has in just six months. There's more work to do. He will continue to do it. But he has a proven economic formula that works. Just look at the success of his first term as president.
And I support him on every one of those things that she mentioned. And he might consider the Epstein issue a distraction. Or if you believe the left, he doesn't want it talked about because he's entrapped in it. But the bottom line is, it's not going away, and Trump's going to have to recognize that. Speaking about how great the nation is doing, we've got a great opportunity for you to take part in an event we're holding, NewsTalkSTL in the Hammond Center for Free Enterprise, bringing Steve Forbes to Lindenwood University September the 18th, along with the help of the Young America's Foundation and West Mid Rivers News Magazine. 7 o'clock, September the 18th, on the the Lindenwood University campus. It is free, but you need a ticket to get in. So you need to go now to NewsTalkSTL and register and say you want a couple of tickets. And they're going fast because who would not want to sit and listen to and have part of a conversation with Steve Forbes, chairman and editor-in-chief of Forbes Media, and what he thinks about what we've accomplished in our nation so far with Trump and what else can be done. And you have to keep in mind that Butler, Pennsylvania, what happened on that day with Trump on the stage, that could have taken everything we're praising and talking about for our nation right now and wiped it out, because that bullet would have found Trump's head, not a corner of his ear. Carolyn Levitt reminds us.
Let's go back to 1 year ago yesterday, where God saved the life of President Trump so he could save this country and return to this city where so much change is needed. And look at what he has done with the border, the most secure border in our nation's history. A president who has the backs of our law enforcement officers every day, those law enforcement officers who put their uniform on to protect our fellow Americans, to make our communities safer. This president supports you, and he loves you. Look at our economy. It is booming again thanks to the pro-growth, less regulatory policies of this administration. And we just signed, President Trump just signed the most significant piece of tax legislation in American history, the largest tax cut for working and middle-class families. That means more money directly into the pockets of every single American watching your show tonight. You look at what he's done to root out DEI and waste, fraud, and abuse in our federal government, to keep men out of women's sports. Victory upon victory.
Victory upon victory. And for those of you watching our live stream, we came this close, even closer to not having Trump as president because of the hate. That's still something we've got to deal with on a daily basis. God bless President Trump and our nation. Remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can follow Larry on Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.